Hello, welcome to F124 League Race at Portugal. And it's going to be an interesting one because we're gonna have a rain at the end of the race. So that's why I start on the hard tire. But then during the formation lap we got to hear the following.
Rain is forecast in just over 10 minutes time.
Rain in 10 minutes, so that sounded a little bit quickly. But anyway, let's start the race. And let's see how well the hard tire starts. And actually, quite well. Got quite some good traction. Can almost get along the Haas. So I did take a look at the inside, but 3 wide in turn 1 is not a great idea. So I just jumped the curb to back out. And therewith kind of created a little mess. So not the cleanest start. But I can get back into P12, which is where I started. And going up to turn 4, lost the car almost. Allowing the Haas behind me who's on the soft tire to get a bit closer. And as he was on the soft tire, he's a bit quicker than me. So he very much wanted to get by. Really had him all over me during the lap. Then he got past me onto turn 1. And interestingly, he takes the same line as me in lap 1. Even though I managed to stay on track. But able to take some DRS with me, so that's nice. And in the next lap, a 3-way battle is going on. And the Haas on the right appears to swap positions with the other Haas, making me gain a position. And a little later on in the lap, the Haas that's on the soft has a little drift. And he also gives me the position, which he tries to get back into the hairpin. And he does get in front. And somehow he ruined his exit. Well, probably because he had a difficult line. And I can retain my position. And I'm noticing these hard tires are not too terrible. So it wasn't a bad choice to start on them. And during these laps I was able to get closer to the Kick Sauber in front of me, who actually hits the Red Bull, bringing me just even closer. And surely having more pace than these guys. But unfortunately, due to my bad qualifying, I'm still behind them. But now in lap 8 onto the first DRS activation of the lap. Getting a bit wide, but a nice run onto the Kick Sauber. And interestingly, putting it on the outside, causing me to get a moment, go a bit wide, but still able to get a great exit, even better than the Sauber. And decided to just keep my foot planted, now nicely on the inside, and I just put it in front of him. And was quite happy with that move. So now P9 can finally get onto the Red Bull. But then we got a safety car.
Safety car deployed.
And as I'm on the hard tire, I decided to stay out of the pit lane. Unlike these cars. And that got me into P5. And at the end of the safety car, we actually get already the rain. Which is quite a nice timing. And I got told by Mark, just stay out of the box.
We'll be much slower if we move on to inters this early.
And not everybody did that. Which is understandable if you're at the back of the field. But anyway, restarting the race. Kick already going into the pits. And I got already a run onto the Red Bull in front. But it didn't feel like the run was big enough to actually put it next to him. Hindsight a bit too careful maybe, but in the rain it's also tricky. So I decided to back out, even though this does cost me some time. Which might be a really important time. Because I'm realistically around P4, because everybody will go to the inter tire. As the Kick behind me lost his car. And now it's a matter of just staying on the track. Just got a bit of a moment down on the exit, not too bad. And I surely do take a lot more caution than normally. Even though at this point it's still a bit like slick weather. Now Red Bull actually driving away a bit from me. And there in the distance I can already see an Alpine went off. And gets back on. And at the end of the lap a Williams went off. And that was a sign for me to actually just go to the inters right away. And having sped in the pit lane once before, I went in very carefully this time. After which the Haas hit me. So now switching to the inters.
Okay, go.
And exiting the pits turned out already undercut by 2 cars. And funnily enough, DRS is still enabled. But the inters definitely seem to be a faster tire. And sector 2 already nicely onto the Haas. But obviously quite difficult to get it next to him in this turn. And now going through the last turn, Kick Sauber lost his car, put it in the gravel. And myself now very close to the Haas in front. And getting some DRS so I can very easily get by. Even though I used a lot of the battery. And now I'm able to see the Red Bull 23 seconds in front of us, and he's still on the hard tire. And that actually looks like a big gap, but as the lap progressed, we found 2 seconds on him. So Inter surely now faster. And he seems to realize, because both the leader and him decided to pit. And going on to start finish, I thought it would be close, but we're very easily ahead. You can see how many positions they lost. And I'm now realistically into P2, and P1 has a 16-second time penalty, so I'm very much leading the race virtually. Which is quite insane after a P12 start. So now about a second behind the Alpine. And around this section of the track I find some time on him. Even though he did now have a better exit. But in this turn can get a little bit closer again. A little twitchy though. Which is normal in these conditions. But I felt quite good on this track with this setup and these tires. And in the next lap getting closer and closer. And on the penultimate corner I can see him struggle just a little. I'm going a bit sideways there. Now I'm right onto him. And I can very well turn in, unlike him. And that's because I run super high downforce. Meaning I can take a lot of speed through the last turn. Giving me a good exit and therewith more straight line, which is funny. And there he just moved over for me, so that made the pass quite easy. But still needed to give him space. And kept it within the white line. And was quite happy with that move, as you can see it here on the replay. Now leading the race in lap 18. My teammate also closing up on the Alpine behind. And lap 20 you see it's gotten wetter. And my teammate now in front of the Alpine and behind me. So I was actually afraid of getting eaten by my teammate at this point. Even though he does have a 3-second time penalty. But at the end of the lap I actually managed to extend the gap to him. From 2.9 to 3.8. And into lap 21 the Mercedes got in front of him. And I do now have a nice 4.6 gap to them. So being in the lead of the race I was actually afraid we had to box one more time for Inters. So I guess that's why I had the tire wear panel on. And Mercedes behind me kind of hanging around 4.1, 4.3 seconds in the beginning. Lap 23 is now 3.5 seconds only. And again a lap later it's only 2.5 seconds. So we're surely getting nervous for him. But then still a lap later I got it to 3.5 seconds again. And the car was really a joy to drive. Thanks to my high downforce it would just turn in right to the apex. And could very comfortably input throttle. It's a pretty good pace that way. And I really enjoyed driving this car on this track. Even in rainy conditions. And it's also funny how Portimao is still in the game, even though it has been off the calendar for 3 years. But it's a really great track and very well made. So I can see why they keep it in. And on lap 28, 2.5 seconds. So at this point I did think I was managing the gap quite well, as well as my battery level. And on lap 30, now 2 seconds in front of the Mercedes. But can very much still nail all the turns. And in the final stages of the race, slowly but surely realizing I can actually get in this win. And very gladly didn't need to switch to another set of inters, as actually a very clear dry line started to appear. And at the penultimate turn of lap 32, Mercedes behind me just over a second. But I got some battery left so I can fully pump the overtake down straight. Giving myself some breathing room. 1.1 to 1.5. So one last time the uphill hairpin. Just one of the hardest turns on the track, especially in the wet. But you can see I get through it quite easily. And with quite some confidence. Which is logical after so many laps of free air. And through the final turn I was very happy about this one. I really enjoyed this race. It's surely one of my proudest victories.
Nice! On to the next one.
So thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed.